I feel like I ain't been up here about 4 weeks. It's only been a week. Yeah, of course, y'all know we're in our study in the book of First Peter. And we've had just a marvelous study of First Peter already. We began verses 1 through 3 talking about them being strangers, or rather Peter referring to them as being strangers because they were not supposed to be comfortable where they are. We talked about verse number 3 with a lot of great detail when we spoke about the blessed be God, the eulogizing, the speaking well of God. And we talked about how God, or why he gives us his abundant mercy, because he's impelled or compelled to do so. Y'all remember we talked about the word according to, the kata, down, to be impelled or dominated by something. We talked about God being dominated by so much mercy that he chose to save us. We talked about that. We talked about verse number 4. We talked about the inheritance, incorruptible and undefiled, that's secured in heaven. God has stored up for us an inheritance that's secured. In verse number 5, we shouted a long time about being kept by the power of God. We talked about, in that word kept, the word garrison. Y'all remember that? How God has a garrison, and a garrison being an army of men who have been charged to protect the city. And it was in the present tense, meaning continuously, that God is on guard continuously. Y'all remember we talked about never being a need to change the guard, because God's power never gets weak. I'm going to start preaching right now, Jimmy. That his power never wanes, it never fails, it never gets weak. So much so that Paul says in Romans 1:16 that he preaches the gospel, and it's the power of God unto salvation. In verse number 6, we talked about the rejoicing and what we go through in this life being only for a little while and for a short season. It's only temporary, and the devil throws various trials at us, meaning different trials, and he doesn't always send the same thing. He doesn't always tempt us with the same things. He uses different things, and it's not about really not about how the many things you have to face, but you facing the different kinds of situations. And then, of course, in verse number 7, we looked at the genuineness of our faith, that it being more precious than that of gold, and the word genuine, the being tried as a fire. Y'all remember that? How we talked about how gold is heated to the point where its impurities are taken out of it. And we said God knows how to heat us and not harm us. We're in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse number 8 tonight. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse number 8. And looking at all of that, we build on verse number 8 from the end of verse number 7. Remember, the background of this book is that the church in Asia is presently suffering persecution, presently enduring hardship from factors that are outside of the church. This is from the Roman government. This is pressure from the Jews. This is all kind of external forces. And in 2 Peter, we'll deal with factors on the inside of the church. And us as Christians needing to make sure that we're prepared to handle both pressures from outside of the church and inside of the church. So in verse number 7 is where we build tonight. Look at verse number 7. That the genuineness of your faith, being much more precious than gold that perishes. God looks for the genuineness of your faith. He wants to know that your faith is real. And God said it's more precious than gold. Though it is tested by fire, may be found to praise. This is where I want to be tonight. Honor and glory at the revelation of Jesus Christ. When you see at the revelation of Jesus Christ, It means when Jesus returns. We're speaking eschatologically. When he comes back and is revealed unto us. Jesus wants to look and see that our faith is found to praise, honor, and glory. Y'all with me? Now, what I love so much about this passage in verse number 8 is Peter starts speaking to people, and we discover that the folk he's talking to are people who've never seen Jesus in their life. Look at verse 8. Whom having not seen, you love. He's saying, he builds on the fact that he's talking about Jesus. Now he said when Jesus comes back, what Jesus wants to see is that our faith was genuine, that we passed our test. Now you may not pass every test, but you need to pass most of your tests. You may fall along the way you're expected to, but when Jesus comes back, he wants to see that you're found to praise, to honor, and glory. And then he says in verse 8, whom having not seen, you love. Underline the word not seen. I'm about to break it down in the Greek. The Greek gives it a stronger emphasis on how they've never seen Jesus. The Greek has it, of whom not having had a glimpse. And some translators, some of our early church fathers used to translate this verse a little differently, and they messed it up. So you may see in your translation, in whom having not known. Known is incorrect. We don't want known. Known doesn't give the force of what the writer is trying to say. They misconstrued two Greek words. The writer is trying to say, you love Jesus even though you never, ever, ever had a glimpse of who Jesus is. Here's the difficult part of this. How can you love someone you've never seen? They've never seen his face. Never seen him walk in Jerusalem. Never seen him teaching by the seaside. They have not had any encounters with Jesus. But yet Peter admits that they love him. Look at the word love. Underline love. Love is agape in this verse. The strongest love. Now this is some good stuff. People think we're crazy as Christians, those who don't believe like we believe, because we choose to follow someone we've never seen. A lot of people have an issue with faith because they think it's blind stupidity. Because you follow somebody that you've never seen before, and people start asking, well, how do you know that what you're following is right? How do you know that God is real? It doesn't make any sense. And they think that we just following this Bible blindly. But even in the scriptures, it admits that folk love the Lord, having never seen him. Why do you think that is? Let me pose a question to you tonight. Why do you love Jesus? What gives you the assurance that Jesus is there? Nobody in this room have ever seen Jesus, or has ever seen Jesus. Mom.
I would just say the things that I've been through personally in my life, and there just has to be, for me, just that faith that I have that I shouldn't be here, or that I should be here, or just things that I know that have happened that I've been brought out of. That's how I just believe.
So you have what we call experiential apologetics. Because of your experiences, you've discovered there must be somebody who's been directing and navigating the situation. Sister Cheney. Sister Cheney, I see it. She said, I tell you that in the word, I believe it. It's my faith. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
This is tangible things that I can see and touch, like nature, things that have been created.
Absolutely. Jameer says nature, things he can touch. I went through this phase once when I started realizing or trying to figure out how to prove it. And I lost my mind because I thought I was going crazy. And I remember calling Orpheus and said, man, I think I'm tripping and I'm losing it. And I said, man, one day I just woke up and said, how do I know I can trust this? After having studied it for all these years, and Orpheus said, man, he said, you're okay, you're fine. He said, I hit this wall when I turned 30. He said, you hit it a long time ago. I mean, he said, you hit it a lot earlier than I did, and it's going to bless you. And I thought he was crazy. And I began this tedious journey of researching this, how I could trust it. I started studying every historian I could get my hands on. And what really got me was when I began studying the opponents and enemies of Jesus. It wasn't the apostles that necessarily convinced me. It was the people who hated Jesus that helped to convince me. It was Trajan and it was the proconsuls that wrote to the emperors and said, what do we do with these people who will not give up this silly superstition that Jesus rose from the grave? One letter in particular brought tears to my eyes as one of the proconsuls wrote to Trajan, and he said, I'm okay with killing adults who won't deny Jesus. But what do I do with these children who won't deny me? Children who had seen something and would deny. But beyond that, I realized something in this verse. It shouldn't have even taken me to do all that, to trust him. I should have been able to trust him just because what he's done in my heart. Watch the text. Whom having not seen you love. The word agape in this text means to pour out of someone's heart. It has the idea of the one you love pulls out of your heart the love you have for them. That's why it's so strong. It's strong because you really don't have no control over this type of love. This is the type of love that is unconditional. This is the type of love that you can't choose. The Greek has 4 different words for love, and these words are, you can choose them. Philadelphia is brotherly love. You can choose the type of love. You have your stoic love. You have your eros love. Well, we get the word, cover your ears, some of y'all, erotica. You have that type of love. All of that type of love is a choice, but when it comes to the agape type of love, it's when I look at somebody and I just can't help it, but they pull out of me. Are y'all seeing this? These folk had never ever in their life even caught a glimpse of Jesus, but through the preaching of the apostles and what their experiences was with Jesus Christ, they couldn't help but have it poured out of them. Well, y'all gonna make me preach right now. I don't want to preach. Y'all gonna make me run. Especially when you look at what God has done in your life, you can't help but to love him. Even when you upset it and you feel like he's not there, you just hear a scripture. A scripture will change your whole life, won't it? No matter how upset I am, if I start hearing somebody quote, now unto him that is able. No matter how difficult life is in that instance, something changes in me. And then I start feeling like that everything's going to be all right. Now unto him that is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that we ask or think. That's enough for me right there. When I look at what he's brought me through, I can't help but to love him. Are y'all seeing this? Never seen him before, don't know what he looks like, have never been to Jerusalem, never been to the tomb, but I've looked in a mirror every morning that I've gotten up, and what I've seen is a transformation in my life, and I can't fight how he pulls. Y'all gonna make me preach. I didn't come to preach tonight. He pours it out of you, especially when he makes you uncomfortable. The agape love here means to call out. Jesus calls out of you. Something that's so deep that really only Jesus can root up. Watch this text, y'all. Yes, ma'am.
Is that way, like, for lack of better word, because I'm convicted. You know, when you, like, I know, like, Joyce, doing something wrong, and I know it's, you know, after a while, it's just like, that's wrong. You just don't, and then it's like God has convicted me, pulls it out of me, I guess, that this is wrong, now stop doing it. Or whatever.
That comes from spending time with him, and when you get off track, that time you spent lets you know that you need to get back on track. And a conscience, some folk don't have that. Some folk will get off the road and never come back. It's a blessing to have a conscience and conviction, to know that, you know, man, this ain't right, and I need to get back on track. God is pleased with me. It's a blessing, certainly a blessing. Look at the text though. I love this. He's building off of verse number 7 about the trials that they're going through. He says, whom having not seen, whom having not caught a glimpse you love, though now you don't see him, yet you believe. The word believe means to trust in this text. Though having not seen him, you trust him. Oh, church, that's enough right there. How many people in tonight can say, I honestly trust him? You trust them with everything. Here's when trust gets difficult. Trust gets difficult when what you're going through don't make no sense. That's when trust gets difficult. And if it were a person putting you through this, I'm sure you would lose trust pretty fast. But when it comes to God, you just have to trust that it's going to be all right. Yes, ma'am.
When I had the situation with my job, I was off the job for a whole year. And I was like, I didn't know how I was going to make it. I didn't know how in the world I was going to make it. And I was like, it came down to I was depleting everything. And then all of a sudden, when it got down to the rock bottom, the Lord blessed me with a job. It's like it just swooped me right on up.
They say when you're down to nothing, God is up to something. I've discovered that sometimes God will allow all of your other options to go away.
I think that's what it is.
I've been in a position where something has happened where I've been blessed, and instead of giving God the credit, I kind of thought to myself, well, it was bound to happen anyway. I understand if you thought about that. Yeah, it probably would happen anyway. I put in enough resumes, I'm pretty sure we got a job. But then, something happens where every interview, you go on, they say no.
Right.
And every dollar you spent, and now your savings is completely gone. And you look up and you still in your house and you still eating and you trying to figure out how in the world this thing happened. God started removing stuff that you lean on, and all you see is him. Oh my goodness, it's powerful. They ain't never seen his face, church, but they trust him. They trust him. They trust him in such a way where they believe that. Here's the part that's really shout-worthy. Yet believing, I'm still in verse number 8, you rejoice. They got joy, church, with joy that's inexpressible. Oh, this is in opposition to verse 7, because they're going through something in verse number 7. The trying of their faith is more precious than gold. They're going through hell, but yet they still can rejoice with joy inexpressible. Are y'all seeing this? Going through everything they're going through just for being a Christian, for being a child of God, and they got so much joy that they can't even put it into words. That's the kind of faith that I want to get to. I want to get to a faith where no matter what happens, that my joy is so high that it's inexpressible. I can't even tell you why I'm so joyful right now. So I'm getting to the point to where when stuff happens, I start shouting. Even when negative things happen, I start shouting because now I'm anticipating how God's going to work the situation out. And it used to be that I would internally, I would be freaking out. I would be losing it. And externally, I may look fine. But internally, I'm struggling. And I'm not sure how it's going to happen. But now, when stuff happens, I just say, okay, God, I want to see what you do in this situation. And honestly, I didn't get to that point until I went through some things. Until God started testing my faith. You ever deal with the woe is me people? Oh man, they just drive you crazy. Folk come into church and even when they request prayer, it's defeated. Church, I got tests next week. I don't know what the doctor gonna say. Pray everything be all right. Why are we praying that everything will work out fine? You're supposed to know that all things work together for good, right? Even if you don't make it out of the surgery, it still worked together for good. Why is that? Because God took me up here, which is better than being down here. Doesn't matter. You won't hear Brother Mims get up and pray and say, Lord, we hope that you work this thing out. Not going to do it. I'm going to say, Lord, I know you're the greatest physician there ever was, and I trust that it's already taken care of. Because yet I've never seen you physically, but I've learned to trust you. A certain level of belief. Watch what he says. It's in verse number 8. He says, you rejoice with joy that you can't put into words and full of glory. Ooh, these some bad Christians here. Now he's going to explain to you why they're rejoicing and why it's inexpressible. Verse number 9. Receiving the end of your faith. Now, let's break this down. Y'all circle receiving or underline receiving. Now, here's receiving. Receiving is to carry away a prize in the Greek. This is a powerful word. In the book of Hebrews, it speaks of God, of someone receiving the promises that God gave him. In the Hall of Faith in chapter 11, it speaks of Abraham getting Isaac back from the altar. So the word receiving here carries with it the idea that God makes good on his promise. So the folk in 1 Peter are rejoicing in the midst of everything they're going through because God will make do or make good on his promises. What they have before them, let me put it in the right words. Their salvation is futuristic. What do I mean by that? When Jesus returns, they're going to go to heaven, right? That's salvation. But they're rejoicing presently for what's going to happen in the future. They have their salvation in view right now. I'm not concerned about what I'm going through because I'm saved. I ain't seen Jesus, I ain't seen heaven, but I got enough faith to endure this because my salvation's in front of me. Who y'all gonna make me preach? He says this. Receiving the end. Y'all underline end. Write the word telos. T-E-L-O-S. Or we say teleos. T-E-L-O-S. It's the Greek word for end. Oh, this is good, y'all. Teleos is what Jesus said when he was on the cross. On the cross, Jesus says, it is finished. Teleos. And from the English, we don't get the full scope of what Jesus meant when he says it is finished on the cross. We think Jesus just said it's ended, but it's much, much deeper than that. The word teleos is what you would get written on your receipt when you went to purchase something. So as if you were going to buy a sculpture, an artifact or something like that, you would take it to the person you were buying it from. They would write you out a receipt, and at the top of the receipt they would write teleos, paid in full. So when Jesus, I hope I don't run around this church. is on the cross. And he's about to give up the ghost. He says with a loud voice, or he cries out, "It is finished. Teleos. I paid it in full." Ooh, y'all gonna make me preach. Oh man, a debt that we could not pay. And Jesus tells the Father, "I paid it in full. I satisfied the requirements that were upon me." Now, when you look at 1 Peter verse number 9, it says, "I'm receiving the payment of my faith." Salvation. Oh my goodness, church. Y'all come in. I was watching the other day on TV and I was YouTube. I was YouTubing stuff, and I was studying all this prosperity gospel preaching, because I said I need to start speaking prosperity over my life because I need some money. And studying this prosperity, I said maybe it'll work for me like it works for them. And what I quickly discovered that I already knew is only people who seem to be prospering were the preachers. And what they were telling them was that your faith will get you the house, and your faith will get you the car, and God wants you to be prosperous if you have enough faith. And then I discovered that 1 Peter is an exact opposition to what they've been preaching. They're preaching that your faith, if you believe it enough, will yield you something materialistic. That's not what Peter said. Peter said that the payment of your faith is not your house, it's not your car, it's not your promotion, it's straight up salvation. And that's worth more than any house, any car, any promotion, any lottery ticket. Give me my salvation. I tell you what, I'll sleep under a bridge if my payment is heaven. Are y'all following this? He says the receiving, the NIV, let's go to the NIV. The NIV says, the outcome of your faith, salvation. The folk are rejoicing because in the present they got a glimpse of the outcome of believing, salvation. It means more to them than the trial they're going through. How many people just really think about your salvation? I mean, you really just think about it. In the midst of everything, you know, Lord, I don't care what I'm going through. I just thank you that I'm saved. I thank you that in this present moment, I have a glimpse of salvation. Having never seen a thing, but my prize is my salvation. I believe that people really felt like salvation was their prize. Then they stopped caring so much about other stuff. And certain stuff wouldn't bother you as much as it used to. You not being able to get something wouldn't matter. We live in a very materialistic society, and I even have to preach this to myself because I'm so picky. It has to be a certain way, and I get upset if it ain't exactly the way it is. And then I just started getting to the point where I'm like, it don't matter as much. It's not as important. It's too materialistic. Y'all get what I'm saying? This don't even really matter no more. The other stuff started mattering most. I tell you what I value so much right now, church, is just peace. I want to go home and hear nothing. I want to lay on my couch, eat popsicles, and watch King of the Hill, and that's good enough for me. I want my freeze pops. I want King of the Hill. And that means more to me now. Y'all get what I'm saying? The fact that I sleep at night is good enough for me. Just the fact that I can snore all night long. I ain't having crazy dreams no more. I ain't got panthers chasing me and lions and I'm waking up at 3 in the morning trying to Google what this dream meant. I don't even believe in dream interpretation. I don't even believe in that stuff. But you'll have your sleep disturbed so bad that you start doing stuff you don't even normally do. I got tempted to start checking my horoscope. What is today going to be like? I need something. You know, stuff is crazy. And then, you know, I started realizing that, you know, that now that stuff don't matter no more. Just let me sleep. Let me snore all through the night. If I got sleep apnea, let me wake up the next morning. That's all. Y'all gonna make me preach. Receiving the end, the outcome of my faith, the salvation of your soul. That's what they had in view. They had the only payment Peter told them you need to be concerned about is your salvation. Don't be concerned about your bank account. That payment not going to get you in heaven. Salvation is what you need to look for. That's what you need to look for. Yes, ma'am.
You know, we get so caught up in how success is really defined.
Absolutely.
You know, as a Christian, and like you're talking about defining success, you know, the house, the car, the new car, so much money in the bank, the this, the that, you know, as opposed to living leanly and getting generous.
Absolutely.
When they talk about not being caught up in the ways of the world, I think we forget it.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy because of what you do every day. What you do every day.
Yeah.
And we forget that that's not the path that we really are supposed to be on. And that's not our thinking, and that's not, or should not be our definition of success.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. You know, somebody proved the point a few hours ago. I posted a picture that someone sent to me. They took a picture of me cutting the grass at the church on Saturday. And they were driving past, and they snapped the picture and they sent it to me. And everybody was shocked that I was cutting the grass, as if I can't get my hands dirty. I don't do it often. But if I have to, then I have to. And I put it on Facebook, and because I wanted to encourage some other preachers who have been calling me this week, and we've been talking about some things that they're going through. And I want to encourage them to say, your situations may change. You may not be where you used to be, but it's okay. So somebody posted on my picture, so sad that I was cutting grass. So sad that you've been reduced to cutting grass. Of course, this ignorant person doesn't know that I don't do this every week. It just happened that the person who normally does it was tied up and couldn't get to it, so I don't have no issue filling in. But the point of it is, you have defined success based upon what you perceive I shouldn't have to do. It's so sad you've been reduced to this. You went from preaching at this big church, and I guess I didn't have to do all that, and now look at you. You cutting grass now. Now you've been reduced to that. Not realizing that I got more joy from cutting grass in peace. Than only having to show up and preach on Sunday in hell. Y'all gonna make me preach right here. I'm cutting grass because I'm only concerned about the outcome of my faith. Oh, I just want to go to heaven. If I gotta cut grass, clean the building, if I gotta scrub the toilets, Lord, just let me go to heaven. The rest don't even matter. Status I'm not concerned about. Somebody said that to me. You know, you may get hurt in the brotherhood by branching. Now, I don't care about no brotherhood. Let me go to heaven. I just want my soul saved. I want to get up on Sunday morning and love coming to worship. I don't want to drive up to the building and start looking crazy and my demeanor shouldn't change when I'm coming into the place where God is supposed to be. It ought to change. If it's going to change, it ought to be when I came depressed. I ought to cheer up and get chipper and get cheerful, because now the God is in this place, not the reverse. I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to get up, come to church, be happy, smile, sing, rejoice, and at the end of my life, the gates swing open, and God said, come on in, thou good and faithful servant. The outcome of your faith was that you're here. That's all I want. The rest don't matter. The rest is what defined as being successful. I just want to receive the end of my faith, church. That's it. I know we took a tangent, but that was some good preaching in that. Ooh, watch this, verse number 10. Watch verse number 10. Oh, y'all got me now. I'm about to run around this place. Let me put this side note in before I go to verse number 10. You know what I loved about this weekend, being over at Roswell? There were moments when I looked throughout the audience, and the folk that was standing, go here.
Yes. Yes.
You may have to edit this. The moment when I looked around, and the folk, their hands were raised and singing loud and loving where they were. Well, the folk from here. I said, look at these folk. Then I got to the point, they don't care where they are. Who y'all gonna make me? Brother came out and said, we gonna read the scripture. And guess who stood up?
That's it. Still straight out.
Don't care that you're the only one standing, the folk looking at you crazy. What are they standing for? Standing because we've learned to reverence when the word is about to be read. What you up for doing singing? Because I've learned to appreciate praise and worship. That's why I'm standing. I've come for no other purpose, and I don't care who's watching. So we concerned about verse number 9. Receiving the end of our faith. Salvation of our soul. Verse number 10. I had to throw that in there. I was so encouraged. Verse number 10. Of this salvation, this is a deep verse. Of this salvation, the prophets have inquired and searched carefully, who prophesied of the grace that would come to you. All right, let me go back and let me break it down. Of this salvation, the prophets, being the Old Testament prophets. Make sure you write that down. These are Old Testament prophets. These are not New Testament prophets. Have inquired and searched out carefully, who prophesied of the grace that would come not to them, but to us. What is Peter saying? Peter is saying that even the prophets didn't understand the salvation we have. They didn't even fully understand what they were prophesying. They didn't know how deep salvation was going. They would speak these prophecies and start trying to figure out what they mean. Watch verse number 11. I'm going to put it together in verse number 11. Let's read 10 again. Of this salvation, the prophets, having inquired and searched carefully, who prophesied of the grace that would come to you, searching what or what manner of time the Spirit of Christ, underline that, who was in them, was indicating when he testified beforehand the sufferings of Christ and the glories that would follow. I know that's a whole lot. Let's unpack it. God gave the prophecies to these prophets. And because the Spirit of Christ was in them in the Old Testament, when the prophets stood up to prophesy, it was Christ speaking through them. Are y'all following this? I know this is probably new. I have never heard this before. Christ was speaking in the prophets. This is so great. About what was going to happen to him. And the prophets couldn't figure out what he was talking about. Because the prophecy wasn't meant for them, it was meant for us. Look at verse 11. Look at it again. Searching what or what manner of time the Spirit of Christ, who was in them, was indicating when he testified beforehand the sufferings of Christ and the glories that would follow. Y'all flip over to verse number 12. Verse number 12. To them it was revealed that not to themselves, but to who? they were ministering the things which now have been reported to you through those who have preached the gospel to you by the Holy Spirit sent from heaven. These things, watch this, church, angels desire to look into. Our salvation is so deep. The prophets didn't understand it, and the angels had to look at it carefully. Y'all see how deep this goes? The word in verse number 12 that says the angels desire to look into means to investigate. The same word is used when the disciples approached the tomb on Sunday morning, and they had to stoop down and look into the tomb. The word carefully literally means to stoop down and look in. God's salvation was so great. I'm trying not to run. So great that the angels had to come and take a look at this salvation and say, Lord, what is that? Even we didn't get that. I love that silence right there. Y'all like, wow. Salvation is that deep. The prophets spoke about what they didn't even understand. So intricate that the angel said, man, that's deep. I need to investigate this kind of salvation. As I prepare to close, what I want you to see from this text is just the blessing and the beauty of salvation. I've been teaching now for the last few weeks that it's much deeper than hear, believe, repent, confess, and be baptized. It's much deeper than that. If nothing else motivates you to hold on to whatever you're going through, it ought to be that God's going to give me the outcome of my faith. Salvation. If I don't hold on for nothing else, it's salvation. I saw this in real life when I ran into Sister Alcorn. That's when I really saw it. Sister Alcorn is in pain every second of her life, and all she keeps talking about is Jesus and when I get to heaven and how good he's been to her, and I just want to meet my Jesus. And I always tell this story. I told this story at National Lectureship this year, and everybody stood up when I talked about my very first encounter with Sister Alcorn. When I just gotten the swope, Sister Alcorn called the church and said, I heard there's a new preacher there, and I tell him to come see me. And I didn't know Sister Alcorn. I had only been in swope a couple weeks, and I was nervous about going to see this lady who I didn't know. I didn't know what I was walking into. So I remember walking up to her hospital room, and I heard her moaning. And honestly, what I was thinking is, I hope she's dressed. I was like, she don't know I'm coming. I just hope she covered. That's what I hope. So, knock on the door. I hear the moaning. I hear her moaning, and I know she's in pain. I walk over to her, Sister Alcorn. My name is Brother Branden Mims. I'm the new minister down at Metropolitan Parkway. You wanted to see me. And I said, how are you? She says, oh, I'm so blessed. She was in a full cast, tubes everywhere, and she had the little thing on the bed that she had to reach up just to sit up and try to pull herself up. And she says, oh, I'm so blessed. And I wanted to shout then, but I didn't want them to throw me out of the room and making too much noise. And so I just had to ask her, Sister Alcorn, how can you say you're blessed in this situation? I wanted to know how she could say that in all this pain. Sister Alcorn says, well, if my Jesus could hang on a cross for 6 hours and be innocent, she said, I can endure this little pain, and I've been guilty. Jamil was over. I wanted to run around, like right around her bed, just run circles around her bed and just shout praises. And I realized that salvation meant so much to her. And when I left, I prayed. And I just said, Lord, I want to get to that point. I don't want the pain to do it. But I want to get to that point where the only thing that matters is my salvation. Salvation is so deep that the prophets couldn't get. And the angels had to investigate. All right, y'all, I'm done. That's enough for you tonight. Go home and chew on all of that. Was that good? It wasn't too deep, but some good stuff, church. Let me say yes, I think. Yes, I'm saying.
I think it's probably not just my girls. They get a little confused sometimes about how often we say that, the material things that should not be your focus, as it should not be. But I continue to teach that you should strive to have success in this world. And it's nothing wrong with not saying it. When it's something wrong with it is when you put those things before God. But they started to get the understanding that if you have money, if you have a nice house or a nice car, that, something must be wrong with that. And there's not anything wrong with that. It's when you put it before God.
Absolutely. I want a Rolls Royce.
But I also teach the goal is salvation.
Yeah.
And when you start to waver or you start to do those things for, other people's jealousy or envy, then you need to reevaluate what you're doing and why you're doing it.
I feel like we are Christian rappers, I say it all the time. That we love to bling, and that's why we love singing our songs like Mansion, Robe, and Crown. When I get to heaven, I want a mansion. What you want to do with a mansion in heaven? You just want to be a rapper. Be a Christian athlete. You want to be in the NFL or something. But you're absolutely right. There is absolutely nothing wrong with prophecy. Nothing wrong with it. There are so many scriptures where God speaks about wanting you to be prosperous. And it covers a multitude of things. And I believe prosperity is not limited to what you have. I believe prosperity could be that you're happy and healthy and your family is good and you got somewhere to stay. But I feel like that we place so much emphasis on what we have. And that's why when stuff happens in people's lives, when they're Christians, they stop coming to church because they're depressed. I lost my job, or I can't pay this, and oh, I'm so depressed. When nothing should ever come between that. And you're right. I don't think there's anything wrong with prospering and having get your bling on. If you can afford your mansion, buy your mansion. You can buy Brother Mims a Bentley, buy Brother Mims a Bentley. He wants a GT Super Sport. He wants the Continental. He wants the Bentley Moussain. He wants the Rolls Royce. He wants the Phantom with the doors open, suicide. Get that for me. Get it for me. Get me that. Matter of fact, Sister Hill, go ahead and pass the basket. In the bulletin this Sunday, put offering. We're going to do a second offering every Sunday for Brother Mims and Bentley. Yes, ma'am.
The question is not really prosperity. The question is, what are we doing with it? Are we hoarding it?
Right.
Is it going through us right now? So are we in a house that's nice, but we gotta have a bigger, better house. We have a car that runs well. We gotta have the newest gadget. I don't think the question is about prosperity. It's what are we doing with it?
And I would definitely be the last person to tell you don't live good. Because I'm so picky, it's ridiculous. I'm trying to move now, but I can't find nowhere that has the hardwood floors I like. And I'm that picky. You're right, I'm gonna move down the street. But I think if you can, be comfortable. That definitely. But here's what the issue comes into play. The issue comes in when I can't function because I don't have it.
That's what I was saying.
And I find Christians that are like that can't function properly because they don't have it. And if I have to get carpet, I have to get carpet. So Jones, I don't like it, but I may have to be carpet downstairs in the dining room. I've been Lord work with me on this carpet thing. Work with me. I'm picking now. I'm picking. But at the end of the if I'm under a bridge, Bro Mims gonna be preaching his heart out. Looking half crazy and everything. You know, some of the Southwestern called me the other day. I'm saying this, I'm gonna let y'all go. And they wanted me to donate to Southwestern. And I told them Southwestern need to donate to us. And I said, I done made y'all enough money throughout my career. Y'all need to give me some money. And they said, well, I know you're out there at church. I know you're making all this money. And I went, who's making what? And I told them, I said, well, we'll start a church. How they gonna pay me a whole lot of money? We just started. And I said, well, actually, I don't get paid. Branden Mims did not believe me. Did not believe me. It wasn't no, they were jokingly did not believe me. Flat out, you're lying. You're lying. It ain't no, you know you crazy. I don't believe you. No, you're lying. I know you. I know how you dress. I know how you like to look. You getting paid. I had to call somebody from here who knows and say, will you please explain to them that I don't get paid? Perplexed. Because it's me. They know I like to drive nice cars. I live nice places. I like to look nice. But when I say it don't matter to me, it don't. I'm not going to stop preaching and teaching because I don't have a check. That's the preacher who needs to check his spirituality and his Christianity. When you can't preach because you ain't got a check, you need to check yourself. I know a very prominent preacher. You don't have his check on Tuesday night. The camera off, right?